over the years I've been pretty lucky, and I've had a lot of people take me under the wing and help me refine my skills. And one such person did that for me years ago with my Filework. My Filework started looking a little more professional and a lot less like the gnawings of a drunk beaver. So anyway, recently I've seen a lot of you guys are dabbling with Filework on your throwing knives, and I thought I'd do a quick tutorial for you. A couple things that'll really help you out. Now, what is Filework? Simply put, Filework is a decorative practice we put on the spine of a knife with the aid of files. These can be really simple, and it can get quite elaborate and stretch down the face of the knife. They may just be limited to the spine of the knife with not much of a profile on the side. And once you get good at them and you've been doing it a while, you can get some really intricate patterns that stretch down both sides. It's just a sword I've been working on. Well, I haven't worked on it in a long time. So there's a few things you're going to need. You're going to need some files. My favorite files to use are chainsaw files. They are fantastic. They're very hard, very brittle, but they're good because no matter how hard your knife is, they'll chew through them. That's specifically what they're designed to do, is chew through hardened metal on a chainsaw. You usually get these in a few different size diameters. I have a couple triangular files I use all the time. Again, very hard. You can see it's busted on the end. It was very brittle, and that allows me to chew through hardened metal. And if you look around, you can often get these tiny little needler files. They come in an array of sizes. This one's round. You can get them in triangles, diamonds, teardrops, you name it. So you're going to need some files, and I suggest getting yourself a small clamp. It's a little brass one I use. It's a jeweler's clamp I use. But even a C-clamp in a toy car, you don't really need a toy car, a block of wood, something like that will work. Last thing you need, or highly recommend, is a vise. And this will keep things solid and help you out. So to start, I'm going to use this block of wood because it's big and you guys can see it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in our vise. Make it tight, and I'm just putting it on an angle for you. Sharpie marker, your best friend. Now if this was the spine of your knife, the very first thing you want to do is measure and break it up into sections. I'm doing every ½ inch here for ease. However, usually when I do this, I do them in 1/4 inches, and it gives me lots of reference lines. So I've got the lines on here, and I'm actually going to put them down on the side just quick so that you guys can see easier. That's just quick. So Filework. Get our tiny little vise, and we're going to start at our first line. Now the reason I'm doing this with wood is because it's very soft and it's very easy to file, and you can practice your patterns before you actually go to a knife. Often a simple wooden knife, you can lay out your whole pattern. So we have a stopper here. As long as that's tight, we can butt our file up to that stopper and it's not going to go anywhere. Got to be careful not to slide down this way, but we're sliding into it. So we put our file. One thing I want to go over before we start. Files are meant to be used in one direction. The teeth only cut one way. If you start sawing, then what you're actually doing is flattening your file teeth, and you're shortening the life of your file, especially if you're using hardened metal. So remember, one direction. Always file one direction. Starting our Filework. We're going to start with a simple pattern, and by simple I mean we're keeping the file straight. Later on, to change file or patterns, we'll go on 45s and things like that, but to start we're going to keep it straight. So I set up my guide at my line, and that's where my first piece of Filework is going to be. And it's simple. Just use this as a guide. now we have our first piece of filework. It's there, it's easy to see. We move down to our next line, and the next one is going to be in perfect position because we have a guide. This makes life so much easier having a guide. Second. Go down to the third line. Now the only really thing you have to concern yourself with right now is having the same angle of attack. And if you put your file in that notch, you can see your angle of attack and you can transfer that. Again, we'll use a clamp for now. I don't actually use clamps when I do this now because I've done it for so long. But this is putting all our positions in the same spot. As you get better, and you've been doing this a while like myself, that clamp isn't necessary. You can put your thumb there to start. If we make a small little notch, we can see where it is, and by either applying pressure to this side or this side of the file, we can actually move. So right now I'm pushing this way while I'm pushing up, and I've shifted my notch that way a little. I've actually shifted it too far, so now I'm going to push it towards me and get it in the right spot. You can see how that moved, and as long as you do it quick enough, then when you get into your filework, you can see that it's the same. So it's in the right place now because I shifted it. Again, I'll start a little bit off. Got a little notch, it's wrong, so I'm going to apply pressure towards me to move it to where I need it to be. See, now that little notch has moved over a little bit. Now if I continue where I am, and we're left with the start of our filework on our knife. We turn it around. What I do often is, you can see the middle space here between these two notches that I've done. Find your middle space, make your mark across, put your file where you need it to be, and then apply your clamp beside it. Now we've got our file in the exact spot we want. You can take it off if you want, check that it is centered. You don't need it anymore, but we use it. Again, I'm going to use my thumb for this, so the center of those two notches, that's where we're going to start. See how I used my thumb to start it, and then once the file is sitting in that hole, then it's not a problem. And that back and forth action was just to get rid of some of that sawdust in there. So again, I put my thumb there to start the file. Wasn't in the right place, so I applied a little bit of pressure that way on the file to get it to where I want it. And now with a round file and very little effort, we have given ourselves a nice filework on the spine. And there's our pattern on our spine. Just color that in so you can see it better. Very simple, very easy. Again, you take your knife, and again, start with wood. If you go to the hardware store, you can often get paint stir sticks for dirt cheap. They're thin, they're nice and easy to practice on. Your file goes in very easy. So for the overview, your knife, you want to mark your lines. Again, we're doing 1/2 inch on this one, but usually it's typically 1/4 inch. I'm just doing this to show you. We've got our reference lines. We've got our... So I was actually working on the knife and showing you a few different designs and patterns, and it turns out my camera wasn't even rolling. Quick overview. Again, we can shift and adjust on the fly where we're putting these notches so that they're evenly spaced. By changing the angle of your file, you get very different patterns, and these are all just, by changing the design just a little bit, it drastically changes the top of the pattern. And Filework is all about coming up with these patterns and figuring out what you're going to do. And that's why working with these little wooden knives is much better, because you can figure out exactly what you've done, how it's going to go about, what it's going to look like, and modify things that don't look good, practice things that you're having trouble with. We're going to quickly, before I go, we're going to shift this to a metal knife just to show you. I am not going to use the clamp because I am experienced and I don't require it, but if I needed to, just butt it up. And again, like I said, I've been doing this a long time and I don't need it. I use my thumb to start, get the hole started, and it needs to come to the camera a little bit, so I'm just going to apply a little bit of pressure this way while I'm filing. I've got the shift. Now, you have to be careful, because when you're moving them, you don't want to move them so far that your notch is actually fatter than the file. As long as it's smaller than the file will in time hide it. But as soon as you get a notch wider than the file, your file will never ever hide it. So we've got our start, and simply straight up. I don't have this clamped in here good at all. Same angle of attack, so my angle of attack's there. Change it a little bit so it matches. Once you have that groove in here, it's quite easy to follow and stay in there. Angle of attack, mimic that. There we have some new file work in the spine. Super simple. Doing this pattern, and this one here, if you look, all I did was, after I was done, I went back with a small one and just did it on the reverse side. It gives us this little weird, but it's all about, Filework is all about finding fun combinations and patterns that you can do with different files to get something that's very decorative. This is a great way to make a knife your own. You know, if you got a pile of 50 jack daggers, you're always going to know which one's your jack dagger if it has Filework on the spine. It makes a knife look more expensive, if you ask me, because somebody's taking a little bit of time, and you know, an artist's time usually equates to value. So if you put a little bit of Filework on the back of your spine, you know, more times than not, it makes your knife look a little more expensive. But it's just a fun thing to make them your own and be a little bit different from the crowd. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you guys learned from it. Like I said, this information was passed on to me. Somebody took me under their wing, helped me out, and I just thought it would be nice to return the favor. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Good luck with the Filework.